From one trader turning just $7,000 into more than $500,000 in this year alone, to another losing $600,000 on a single trade, we are going to go over the most unhinged trades of July. Confident Thai 1529 turned just 7k into 425k in this year alone, in just 8 months. More specifically, he started out with just $7,366.75 on January the 3rd, 2024, and now his account is worth $425,194.90, with his account rising very consistently except for the dip in July. He traded stock indexes, commodities and forex in the past, but individual names have been his best gambles. He really only started trading seriously in May out of boredom purely, and to be honest, it was a whole lot of luck, a bit of timing, and in WallStreetBets style, absolutely zero due diligence. He already took out about 80k worth of gains over the last 2 months, otherwise he'd be at more than $500,000. He is not going to post the 500 plus trades, but the most memorable ones have been Salesforce after earnings, which he got into because everyone thought the company would recover after dropping wildly after earnings, so he inversed them. Iron Condors on Micron Technology heading into earnings, while Ivy was wild, the risk to reward was good, and the stock moved only a couple of bucks on earnings. STS this past Thursday, which has been his largest gain, worth 160k, and he made the trade because it went up like crazy on Thursday, so he bought a ton of 1 day till expiry calls and they went up again on Friday, and he had no idea what STS does except that they want to get rid of cell towers in favor of satellites, and this knowledge is in hindsight. He only found STS because he was looking at stocks that made large moves that day. Baidu calls that cost him 100k and were the main reason he was down by nearly 50% earlier this month, which he bought because of robotaxis, as he thought it would hit $110 to $120. He bought calls and got destroyed. And finally CrowdStrike puts after their glitch issue, which he bought because everyone thought it was oversold, so he inversed them again. Now in full disclosure, the vertical spike up around May was a check deposit of 35k, which was a surprise bonus at work that he was not expecting. He is also not cashing any of it out as he plans to keep gambling with this account. Now the difference between him and your average WallStreetBets user is that he knows options inside out. The theory, that is. The only thing that matters in options pricing is IV. Market makers do not care about their action because they're always almost delta hedged. Yes, puts are slightly more expensive because IV goes up more when stocks tank, but there's also the limited downside risk with selling puts because stock prices cannot be negative. He only sells spreads, never naked options. Selling options creates the illusion of free money because we never think about worst case. Pro traders think about idea generation. They don't make a trade because they woke up on the wrong side of the bet. Idea generation means why something is going up or down and why now. And most importantly, what do I know that WallStreetBets does not? You see, while he reads stuff, he's always skeptical about what he reads. Everything you read about everything is already priced in, but when everyone is anticipating the same thing, inverse it. You may not always be right, but when you are right, you can make up all the losses and then some. Use your head before inversing though. Betting against cult-like brands like Apple just because everyone else is too bullish and you think you're a genius betting against the trend may not be smart, but also beware. Volatility clustering is a real thing. For example, high and low volatility happens in clusters. You won't see a spike in volatility one day and then go back to normal the next, but options pricing will adjust when that first spike in volatility happens. So jumping on the trend may not be a good bet because you're paying dearly for those options. Ask yourself, what do you see that the market is not seeing? The Master 8899 just lost $600,000 with a single play, but before we go into it, let's go a month back when he was still making gains. On June the 28th, he made 26k in just 30 minutes by buying QQQ 1 day till expiry calls. A couple of days later, he made $36,000 from NVO puts and 10k from AMD calls. Then he posted his first huge gamble. He bought about $84,000 worth of Nvidia puts expiring in 2 days. And with Nvidia going up, he quickly realized his mistake and sold for a $12,000 loss before it could go to zero. And then he entered the trade he likely remembers remember for the rest of his life. He bought $600,000 worth of not shares but options. Yes, he bought more than $500,000 worth of Chipotle calls. And on top of that, he bought them with less than a month till expiry. Now, when he made the post, he was already down by 45k and yet he continued holding. Why? Because it was flat for 3 months and with the sell-off on July the 8th and earnings coming up, he was sure it was going to go up, saying that this is Wall Street bets and not Wall Street have a reason for every little move. He was aiming for a 20 to 40% gain, but generally it depends on how long he's been holding and the trends. For some trades, he's held for days and weeks to sell them just to break even, because he didn't want to hold any longer. But any positive percentage is a win, as 1% of 600k pays for a lot. He lost a lot when he started by not cutting his losses, and then he said that he always cuts losses at 20%. As the stock continued falling, not showing any signs of a reversal, he didn't hear no bell. Soon he was already down by 25%, 5% lower when he was supposed to cut his losses. As days got closer and closer to the earnings, he still held on to a bit of hope. He didn't think he'll make a profit, 99% not, but he still thought that he had a 5% chance of breaking even, and hoped that the earnings report would give a pop to recover 15 to 20% of the losses. Somehow his loss jumped back up to a 25% loss, but that simply wasn't enough. Now he wanted to break even, and then he posted his $600,000 loss on Chipotle calls, with his position being worth $1,746. Needless to say, he'll never buy a burrito again. And here is what he had to say about it. Don't gamble with what you can't afford to lose. This isn't his full portfolio or even half of his portfolio, so luckily nothing has changed in his lifestyle or future plans from this loss. Corey407WOC made a 600k gain on ASTS. He found out about this stock 2 years ago from a meme here after losing 40k in Bed Bath & Beyond. He's been holding and buying dips for 2 years since BW3 launch and plans on holding until 2030. He spent about $100,000 to buy 35,000 shares of ASTS at an average buying price of just $2.88. In the past couple of months, the stock just completely exploded due to additional funding and completion of the next block of satellites, making the stock go up by more than 700% from its lows and getting his position to $659,000. He owned a few thousand shares 2 years ago and was holding 3 bitcoins at the same time. He took out credit card loans to get these bitcoins at 20 to 30k each and sold in April, and proceeded to sell all of his bitcoins and throw the rest into ASTS before the earnings call, basically a YOLO. MLG420Swag69 knows it isn't as impressive as most, but he's used what he's learned here to make that slow climb and hit a milestone at close yesterday. A year ago he started with about $50,000, and since then his account has just been consistently rising without any major dips, bringing his final account value to $101,003.17. He knew absolutely nothing about trading, so really it was just exposure. He knows this up is mostly high risk and he tried a few of those, but eventually he just ended up breaking even and not gaining much. He wishes he had some type of groundbreaking knowledge to share, but honestly he just sets buy and sell limits. He is not holding on to a stock. Being happy with what he has and walking away allows him to stay green. He took about $20,000 and put it into a high interest savings account that allows him to buy high interest CDs, which he holds for a month at a time. He put $40,000 into stocks and holds the rest in case he needs to sell before it settles. He also doesn't trade options. He might someday, but he's seen too many loss posts on this up. Revolutionary Photo 24 is on one of the most consistent rides in her life. A year ago she started with 83k, and with her account steadily rising she got it all the way up to $363,000. She started trading straddles and spreads this past week, which helped, as did some random pops, many others, and always Nvidia and SPY these days. She's going to continue, but has dropped her allocations and position sizes on wildly speculative plays and options. Also Also, she's been buying shares with gains and never did increase position size. And she learned to take profit early as greed kills. Wait for a fat pitch, especially now during bull market. And in general, don't trade over earnings unless hatched. Have a plan specific to each trade and general guidelines at the start and don't deviate. No Giraffe 3252 lost every single dollar he had to his name and is in debt of $45,000. He lost 35k on Meta in April and kept on losing after that. So yeah, year to date he's down by 98% or $68,000 and is left with about $100 with the chart looking like it just went straight down. He took out a loan of 45k and had 30k of his own money, totaling 75k, which he lost on some options plays. He wishes he could reverse back in time and stop himself from doing that. Wish him the best of luck and don't deal your life savings plus a loan. Buy top, sell drop made a 26k gain from just $400. Yes, he made a 60 bagger. As we can see in 2024, he deposited just $400. But after his account literally exploded, he's now up by more than 6,000%, bringing his account to $26,286.79. He just can't lose. 90% of his trades are SPY 0-day seal expiry options betting with the trend. More specifically, he's trading options with a strike price $2 above the current price. So not only did he turn just $400 into 26k, but he did it with the riskiest strategy out there. His rules are: firstly, not trading in the first 2 hours. Secondly, no chasing losses. He sells if he hits negative 20%. Thirdly, never stay in a trade for longer than 2 hours. Fourthly, if he hits a 30% gain, he sets a trailing stop loss to lock in gains. And finally, he's just super lucky. So he's gonna put 24k into ETFs on Tuesday and is gonna do it again with 2k. This reserve 5213 made an insane overnight gain on QQQ puts. He thought his position was regarded, but he still made 142% or $103,000 gain, bringing his account to more than $115,000. Now the funny thing is that he reached a peak of around 130k in 2020, before he gave 100k back and logged off for 4 years. Chef made a huge loss on Google earnings. In a single day, he lost 95% of his account or $25,579 and was left with just $1,155.98. And here's what he had to say about it. How much you want to bet Google would have gone up after hours if it was paired with a quality company instead of dog Tesla. Why couldn't we get Microsoft again? As he full ported on cars with a striking price of $185 expiring 3 days after earnings. But sadly that's not his only loss. He has a history of making huge losses with an exception of a 68k gain on FedEx earnings, which brought his account back in profit. Yet with this loss on Google, he's now once again in the red. Habanero Bidet aka Pooh Boy made a completely insane 18,000% gain on CrowdStrike. He turned just $40 into $7,500 with CrowdStrike puts with a striking price at $290, which he's been holding since last earnings. But this was not his only insane gain. In fact, he has a history of making absolutely impossible gains, like turning $500 into $16,000 or $200 into 14.5k or $1,000 to $28,000. But all of these gains pale in comparison to this absolutely insane 112,000% gain, with which he turned just $1 into $1,130 overnight. And last but not least, CMG Hater 69 lost his college money. He's down by 98% or about 8.7k and is left with just $99.09. Naturally, he's officially done with day trading. You can see there was a period of time where he previously quit, but some friends got him back into it and it only ended badly. This money was supposed to be used for college. He's going to have to work even more now to make up for it. Strictly long-term investing now. And if you want to see what happens when you trade options on margin, click on the video just popped up. If you like my content, make sure to subscribe and thanks for watching.